All right. Hopefully, all will go well today. It, sometimes I see the picture jump out of the corner of my eye and I wonder what's going on. I think part of that is when I first get started, it does take a few seconds. But it's funny because when on Wednesday, so that happened 3 times on Wednesday, the first time we were only 2 seconds in. I thought I was farther in than that before it did that. So when I went to look at the video after I was all done, it was only 2 seconds. 2 seconds. How lame. So I'm just really praying it goes smooth today. I do have one backup stream ready to go. I rarely ever need to use it, and even more rarely need to have a third stream. So I didn't get a third stream up and going. So depending on how far I get into my topics, if I get cut off once, I'll come back on. If I get cut off a second time, I probably won't, because then I got to go through all the rigmarole of setting up a whole new stream, and it's a pain in the rear, especially when you know people are waiting on you. And I get so stressed, and I don't need that kind of stress. Ain't nobody got time for that. So, yeah, that's where I'm at today. So it's been a good day so far, though. I'll say that. Other than this is something else I could really use some prayer for if people don't mind. I hardly ever ask for prayer for anything. I don't know why that is. I always feel so uncomfortable. But I've really had a lot of pain in my back, mostly my upper back and my neck. I don't know if something's out. Usually if something like that happens between the massage chair and Patrick and myself and stretches and whatnot, I can get it better. It'll take care of itself. But this has been going on for probably a couple weeks now, and I have like moments. Well, hi Cody. I thought you were with Patrick. Are you guys back already? Sorry. The doggie's here. What happened? Thought you were at the property with Patrick. So anyway, yeah, I've been taking some valerian leaf and it's really been helping, but it seems like every time more worried about our weather here cutting up. My Wi-Fi has been lagging. I hope I can watch this. Okay, just checking. Yeah, and that's good. I hope so too, but I'm just checking to make sure that's not something already going wrong. Anyway, yeah, so it'll get better for a little bit. And then I'll do something simple like go out and plant my corn, the rest of my corn, and just come back in and just realize, man, I really hurt. So it feels like it's something between my shoulder blades and up into my neck. And I could go to the chiropractor, but I keep thinking maybe I'll go to the chiropractor. I mean, like I said, usually Patrick figures out, we do different kinds of manipulations that help, but whatever's going on, it's not getting better. So yeah, the valerian leaf does help. It helps a lot. It helps kind of relax the muscles around there and alleviate the pain. So that's kind of what I've been doing the last couple of days. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get into my topics. I have some other things I do want to talk about, but I want to talk. We're going to be talking about herbs, where to get them, and not just because I've done videos on where to get dried herbs if you can't already grow them, or where I get them. But I want to update that, but also talk about other things. But before I do, I want to show you. So if you saw my post that I put on the main channel about the dandelion leaves, well, I picked some more just so I can show you. The one I showed in the image where I had the ruler sitting in front of it was about 14 inches long. Well, you see this? That one there? I picked a few more just to show you. I did measure this one. I just want to prove to people. You see that? 22 inches long. So once your dandelions are done flowering, that's when it starts putting all its energy into the leaves, and the leaves can get quite big, but it also depends on where they're growing. I find that the ones that are getting the minimal sun, some sun, so partial shade, partial sun, they get the biggest, especially if the soil is nice and rich. Or if they're maybe like on the south side of the house here, I've got dandelions growing. But if I've got some that are growing kind of amongst some other herbs that are kind of keeping it somewhat shaded, those get, I know there's at least one or two of these leaves I got from over there, not this 22-inch one. But this is standard this time of year. And so that's what will happen. So if you're wanting to get really big leaves, it does make for a lot easier, faster harvesting. Yeah, just look at finding some specific places where you're you can plant the dandelion where it won't get full all day sun, especially if you live in a very hot climate, because the hot sun tends to, they'll still grow, but it tends to just keep them from getting those really massive leaves. And they do like a rich soil. And it seems like the looser the soil, maybe that might have some say in it too, but not necessarily. So yeah, they get pretty big. And if the soil is really loose, the roots will get massive too. So if you watch the old video, I've got an old video from like at least 7 years ago, where it shows me early spring digging up some of the dandelions that were coming up in my main garden. I was digging them up intentionally for saving the roots. And a lot of people were shocked when they saw the size of the roots I was pulling out of there, but it was because the ground was, that was our garden soil is nice and loose. And so those roots were coming out like that long, some of them about that big around maybe. I might be exaggerating on how big around. I might be thinking of the marshmallow root, but you get some pretty long roots if the soil is loose and rich. So anyway, let me start off by answering the question that I get very frequently, and that is about if you can't grow your own medicinal herbs or you can't grow the ones that you want, where is a good place to purchase them? So I have several different companies I've bought from through the years, and that tends to change a little bit over time. And I usually always have it narrowed down to three, no matter what. Frontier Co-op is still one of my favorites, though it's not the first place I go to anymore. It used to be the first place I go to. And they sell their herbs in all kinds of different places. I think they sell them in health food stores, though I'm not sure if you can buy like the bigger bulk, because I almost never buy anything that's less than a pound when it comes to buying something like that, because typically you're going to get a better deal. And if I know it's something I'm going to use a lot of, I'm going to get a pound. So Frontier Co-op, I think that's where I bought the dried mullein, was from them. And then the other one, I did put links. Now the links are to the Amazon store. Because the two I'm talking about first, they both have their own Amazon store. And though I know a lot of people are anti-Amazon, but here's the thing. I have found a lot of times I can get a better deal by buying through their Amazon store, and they have more to offer, and I'm more apt to be able to find the bigger sizes. Now, Vitacost also carries Frontier Co-op herbs, but not as many. They don't have as much to offer there. And then the other one is Anthony's Goods, which I'm pretty sure is only sold through Amazon. Now, while they have their own like store site, it still ends up going through Amazon. So even though they have their own separate website, they charge more there, and then it still ends up getting shipped out by Amazon. So there's a lot of companies that are US-based companies. Some people assume that everything sold on Amazon comes from China, and that's just not true. There's a lot of US-based companies. Like I've mentioned many times, I've got some really beautiful spoon rests that were made from a Christian lady down in Oregon, and they're beautiful. And she sells her stuff mostly through Amazon. And then the pottery, the dishes, the pasta dishes, and the coffee mugs I got from a guy based, from Utah that was handcrafting them. I don't think he's doing it anymore. I got those through Amazon. So I'm going to talk about mountain rose herbs in a minute and why I do not purchase from them. It's my personal choice. I'll share that with you in a bit. I was debating whether or not I was going to bring it up again. I bought from them in the past before they made a decision that I absolutely could not agree with. So that 100% goes against something that I feel very strongly about. So I'll get to that in a bit. Um, but now the number one place I always go to first, because they're getting more and more stuff, is the Azure Standard. Now, I don't always get the best price through Azure Standard. So out of those three, a lot of times now, Anthony's Goods has the best price. But I still try to get as much as I can from Azure Standard because I'm just all about trying to support them as much as possible. But I also like getting the best deal as I can. So it's kind of like it's a toss up. And it just depends on what it is and what the price difference is. If it's a pretty big price difference and Anthony's Goods is a lot cheaper, then I'd probably go with Anthony's Goods. They're I've been pretty pleased with Anthony's Goods products, and they sell more than just herbs. They sell all kinds of stuff. I've got some of their back when I was doing a lot of baking for our gluten-free friends. Get some of their gluten-free flours there. I like their buckwheat flour better than the one from Azure Standard, because Azure Standard leaves the hulls in, which don't hurt you. I just don't like the way it makes the flour look. And then whereas Anthony's, it's a little more expensive, but they also have the hulls removed from the buckwheat. So it's all toss up. But anyway, so as far as a store goes, a company to buy herbs from that I don't already grow or cannot forage for, those are my top three. So then, well, let me go ahead and go over the mountain rose, and I'm just going to say this. This is my opinion. You got to make the best choice. What's best for you? Mountain rose herbs is out of Oregon. They are high quality. They're not cheap, but they are all organic. At least last I bought from there, everything they had was organic. Oh, in the back row. I see. You're one of those, Tyler, sitting in the back row. Though it doesn't seem to keep you from piping up and saying something smart, Alec. Does it now? Anyway, class clown. So here's the deal. And I will admit that I haven't gone back and looked recently to see if they've ever taken back or changed their stance on something. And this something has to do with the life of the unborn. So years ago, they made a decision to support an abortion doula. Believe it or not, there is such a thing. And even though a lot of their clients, stood up against it and said, hey, please don't do this. Please do not publicly support something like this, because if you do, we're going to stop doing business with you. They didn't care. They went against what quite a number of the people that would purchase from them were saying. See, I didn't know about it until much after the fact. I think by then I was already buying herbs from other places where I could get better deals and growing a lot of my own. So when I found out about it, it was after they had made the decision, not before. I would have shared my opinion. So, but if you go back to some of my older videos, I was promoting them. And so I don't anymore. Now, again, what you choose to do is up to you. You can't assume that every single company you support is perfect, that behind the scenes are probably supporting things you don't agree with. There's nothing you can do about that. If you don't know, you don't know. But if a company, to me, in my personal opinion, if a company is going to publicly come out and proudly proclaim that we're going to help support this abortion doula, yeah, I can't get beside that because of my personal stance on the right to life, liberty, and happiness to all human beings, including those inside the womb. So that's just me. And I suggest people read Psalm 139. Just read it. It's pretty clear that every part of us was already written in our DNA. That's what that book is that it's talking about in Psalm 139. Because if you understand how DNA works, it's rolled up like a scroll. They have to unroll it and open it up to be able to read that DNA, and it's written. Scientists will tell you this DNA is written out just like a book. So all my members were written in your book before they were even formed, which tells you that as soon as right at conception, that DNA is created and all the parts are written right there. Psalm 139. Okay, so enough of that, especially for those who aren't believers, don't believe the Bible. I don't want to get all political, but that is something I definitely will stand very strong on. So that's me. Do with it as you will. I'm not going to judge anyone for their choice to buy from Mountain Rose Herbs if that's what's best for them. That's just my personal thing. So as such, I cannot support them or promote them. Okay, so let's talk about where to purchase seeds and or live plants if you're wanting to put some of these different herbs into your garden and you don't know where to find them. Some of the places, I mean, sometimes you can go to like down to your local nursery to look for seeds, and you're just going to find a lot of your basics: beans, tomatoes, and basil, and so on. But you might not be able to find herbs or seeds for something like feverfew or marshmallow, or maybe not able to find live plants for those. I mean, I've never personally seen live plants. I know some people have bought live marshmallow plants, but I've never seen them. There's only one nursery I ever go to anyway, and that's our local one, maybe once or twice a year. But here's something else. I still recommend looking in your local nursery, because if you can't find what you're looking for, a lot of times you can go talk directly to someone or call them up and just say, hey, can you order up such and such seed or such and such live plant? And sometimes they'll do that for you. It just depends on what time of the year it is, if they've got an order that's going in. Our local nursery has ordered up plants for me before. I can't remember what. Was it golden oregano? I know it was a few different things I ordered. I had them order up for me specifically. If they can't do that, or if you're one that prefers to just shop for stuff online, well, don't forget, I sell a lot of herb seeds. And not all of the herbs I grow do I sell seed to. I don't sell my cat mint seed, and I don't have catnip. It took me a few years to finally figure out, okay, this is cat mint that I have, not catnip. And I don't sell the seeds to the cat mint. I certainly won't be doing it this year because I almost lost all my cat mint. And so I'm just kind of getting it, had to move my plants around, and they're just little. So I don't know that I'll get any seed, but maybe someday I'll do that. We'll see. But I do sell a lot of other marshmallow seed, dandelion seed. All of it's organic, grown naturally, no nasty stuff in there. So 2 things I buy that I could forage: organic stinging nettle and dried black elderberry. At the purchase price, I don't work that cheap. I tell you, Tyler, I feel that way about a lot of things. We might end up pulling out our black elderberry just because it's getting way too big. Even though, we didn't get it cut way back this last year, and I should have cut it back early this spring. It needs to be completely leveled down to the ground, and then allow the young sprout, the younger parts of the plant to come up. But Patrick's thinking about ripping them out of that area because they're planted so close to the house, and they get really huge and then shade out a lot of stuff. That's why one of the reasons I lost some of my herbs, or almost lost them, my oregano and my cat mint. Though the cat mint was also kind of crowded out by these big, massive dandelion leaves. So I had to pull up some of my dandelion plants and make room again. So yeah, so I do sell seeds, and what I don't sell, Etsy is actually a pretty good place to look for seeds, though I don't support Etsy anymore after what they did to me. Um, I will, if I absolutely have to, look for something on Etsy. Here's the nice thing about places like Etsy. I'm sure there's other places you can look at. But if you're going to, or even if yeah, Etsy is all over the world. So the nice thing about it is you can look for seeds in a more that are coming from an area that's more local to you. And there's always somebody selling some kind of thing that you can't just find in your local nursery, or maybe not even on Baker Creek Seeds, which I stopped buying from them several years ago too. But um, especially after 2020, what they did. Yeah, so you can look on there. I have bought a lot of seed over the years through Etsy from sellers that specifically looking for people who live in an area that would have somewhat similar climate, and in the United States as well. So I can have a better chance of them actually doing well for me, rather than I try to avoid buying seed from Florida or Mississippi, because usually if it comes right from there, if that's where it was grown, typically it's not going to do well. Sometimes I'll still, if that's the only place I can find something, then I'll still give it a try, because I figure if I can at least get one plant to survive and then put out seed the next year, then I can get some better, something that's more acclimated and some good viable seed for my area. So let's see. So Etsy. Oh, and then of course Azure Standard. Azure Standard also now sells seeds. I've got some rutabaga seeds from them, pie pumpkin seeds. I got a few other things. Some of them I planted so far, they seem to be doing pretty good. And then I bought some live plants from them as well. They do sell live plants. At least right now they're doing it. So I bought a few. I got what was it? What was it? A bee balm, a lemon bee balm. I thought I'd just try for the heck of it. And get this, even though I have a lot of yarrow seed, I realized way too late that I lost my yarrow. All my yarrow's gone because it got crowded out. So all of it. And I used to have this massive big patch of yarrow. I got to have my yarrow. So I bought a pack. It was like, there was like 4 plants in the pack for $3.95 yarrow. They're just little. And I did go ahead and get some seeds started. And now they're growing, and they're yarrow. They're not whatever that weird thing was. So they're not tainted. I have a theory on that though, of what happened, or well, not what happened, but why it happened. I'm going to talk about that later if I have time and I don't forget about what happened with my arnica and lovage. I was going to share it on Wednesday, but because I kept getting cut off, I never got to it. So Deb, welcome to everybody I didn't call by name. Yeah, that's the thing, is that you start reading through the names like, oh man, I know I'm going to miss somebody. And then I'm going to feel bad because I called all these other people out. Oh, let's see. Then, of course, there's always wild foraging. Now, obviously, what you can forage in your area is all going to be dependent on your climate. If you live where we do, or or in a climate like ours that's very cool and wet, you're most likely to be able to find things like turkey tail mushroom, usnea. Most people can find dandelion and plantain, and what else? Horsetail. I don't know. I think horsetail you can find in just about any climate. It still it's going to grow if it's the right horsetail. It's going to grow closer to any place that's real more marshy and wet. Because I know over on the east side of Washington, east of the Cascades, horsetail does grow right along the banks of the river, Wenatchee River. So, because now I know what that is. I remember seeing it as a kid. I didn't know what it was, but I always thought it was cool looking. Let's see. Self-heal. I think a lot of people can probably get that, but that grows crazy around our area now that I know what it is. Lamb's quarters, pineapple weed, and nettle. Now, I do grow some of this. I allow it to grow intentionally just on my own property instead of going out and foraging for it. I just kind of let it come in. Oh, red clover is another one. I knew there'd be a bunch of them I'd forget. Now around here, something like chicory and mullein doesn't grow wild. I do grow chicory. My chicory plant in the back, I think the chickens just ate too much of it and it's not coming back. But thankfully, I've got 2 out front that are doing okay. So, but I had to start that from seed. I don't think I've ever seen chicory growing wild, but I know some people say that one grows all over the place where they're at. And mullein is definitely not wild here. It's it's too wet for it here. And I did not get any young mullein plants coming up from seed. So I had to start some more and I think it's going to be a little too late. So I may have to wait and start some again next late winter, early spring. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to be too hurt if I can't get, a good. But if the mullein was perennial like I thought it was, I'd be sitting pretty good on that. But unfortunately, I realized, oh, it's biennial. That's why my plants didn't come back this year. Grr. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There is a lot of medicinal herbs that you can forage. Now, foraging is one of those things though that's not everybody. Some people are handicapped, some people are elderly, and that's something that's really hard to get out and do. However, just like with me here, I've just kind of made areas where allow the red clover, the dandelion, the plantain, and the like to grow, even though those are things I could go forage anywhere. I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I just don't have time to constantly be going up. The only thing I go forage are things that grow wild down at our other piece of property. And that's always kind of nice to get a nice day. I get to get out of the house. I can just go right down the street to our own piece of property. And that's where I get the horsetail, the wild blackberries. Typically, that's where we're going to find turkey tail mushroom growing, usnea growing on the birch tree, not birch, alder trees. I said birch because a lot of people see them and they think they're birch because they look like birch. They're alder. So, but yeah, the usnea really likes those alder trees down there. So I can usually get all kinds of usnea down there. So this is why I'm not too hurt about the mullein, because usnea is also very, very good for the lungs. And by the way, on Azure Standard, I saw mullein starts in there. They look like good, healthy starts. So yeah, and so I said that about the seeds and so on. Now, yeah, please share with us in chat, or if you're watching this later and not watching it live, share with us in comments. Where are your favorite places to purchase your herbs if you have to purchase them? And what are the kind of wild medicinal herbs that grow in your area that you can easily go out and gather? I know I'm forgetting a whole bunch that grow around here. But actually, yarrow grows wild too, but mostly you're going to find them along the beach up on the, like where I saw it growing was kind of higher up, right on the edge of the cliff close to the, sorry, okay, I'm going to have to get back to that. Close to the edge, so it's kind of like a little cliff and then there's a walkway and that goes down to the beach. They seem to like it right along the edge where they can get lots of sun but not get stomped on. There's a lot of them there, but I haven't seen them anywhere else, just by the beach. Let me reply to this text message and you guys can just chat amongst yourself. I'm going to have to send this off. Okay, so I got to let somebody know now. Please be patient with me. Okay, there we go. There. Sorry about that. That was kind of important. I needed to get that dealt with. Passing message to somebody that needed it. Let's see, alder is really good for smoking meat, especially salmon. Huh. Yeah, we get a lot of alder. It's like the only real common hardwood that it's not the only hardwood, but I mean, it's like the only real common one that's going to be used like for firewood around here. I mean, obviously got fruit trees and stuff. They're a hardwood, but people aren't cutting down the fruit trees to heat their house unless they're going to get rid of the fruit trees anyway. And even then, like a lot of that wood's good for making stuff. We used to have what was that hardwood? That ash tree out front here, and we wanted to make room for fruit trees. It was kind of hard getting rid of the ash tree because my kids used to like to hang up and out up in that tree in the summertime. Anyway, but that ash made some beautiful wood products, and Patrick had made quite a bit of things out of it when we took it out and sold them, like sock darners and tampers and vegetable tampers and crochet hooks, and I don't remember what else. He had a bunch of different stuff. So Linda says, I pick most of what I use from our farm. I'm blessed enough to have friends and an Amish and a Mennonite store close if I need something. I don't grow. Very cool. Cleavers. I haven't done the cleavers yet. I don't really even know what they look like. I know my friend who lives just out of town. It takes about 15 minutes to get there. She has a lot on her property. King Seeds in New Zealand has a lot of seeds, and they are cheap. Thank you for sharing that. For all you New Zealanders out there. Is that what you're called? I'm probably going to say it wrong. Baker Creek. It's more, well, first of all, it started because back in 2020, there was a lot of seed you just couldn't get. They were like out of everything. And then they started implementing for their workers something that, like in 2021, I think it was, when a lot of companies were forcing their workers to take a certain injection into their body or they'd get fired. Yeah, Baker Creek did that. That was a big surprise considering what I thought they were supposed to stand for. Big surprise. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I won't go back to them then. If that's the way they're going to be, they've lost my business. So alder is the chameleon wood because you can stain it to mimic nearly anything. Cleavers, plantain, dandelion, shepherd's purse, common mallow, and wild lettuce. Anything else? Let me see. Is there any other things I want to read here that I might be missing? People sharing. See, very excited to be growing wild pawpaws this year. Well, you must live. Oh, you're in Michigan and you're growing pawpaws? I thought that only grew in places like California. Don't pick the prickly pear by the paw. When you pick the pear, try to use the claw, but you don't need to use the claw when you pick the pear of the big pawpaw. I guess I don't even know what a pawpaw is. I mean, I've heard of it, obviously. Yarrow and or chamomile makes an excellent lawn replacement. Let's see. Chamomile it's an annual. It doesn't do super great here, which I think is weird because pineapple weed is a very, very close relative of chamomile. Yeah, we have tons of pineapple weed and it grows like crazy here. And if you like, it'll grow anywhere. It'll grow in rocky soil, dry, but it never gets very big. But if you grow it like in rich soil and it gets plenty of water, it gets huge. Like, in rocky soil and it gets like that big. But if you grow it in a main garden, like in a rich garden, it'll get like this tall. What is that? At least a couple of feet tall and get big leaves. But yeah, it's very closely related to chamomile, though I like the aroma and flavor better because it's got that mild pineapple kind of flavor to it. So what is somebody here? See, my mullein was a gift from God when I lived in Snohomish. Okay, let's see. What am I missing? MI Gardener has good seeds. Cheap. I've heard of MI Gardener quite a bit. Never bought anything, but I've heard of that. Let's see. Yeah, plantain, broad and narrow. We get both here too. Mostly I have the broadleaf, but out in the front garden there's some of I think they'd call it lance leaf. Usually if it's got a long, narrow leaf, you call it lance leaf because it looks like a lance. It's a lance. Duh. Some of you will get that movie quote. No, 100% what you're picking. Yeah. Oh, aren't the kiwis? Now, is that a nice name? See, I wouldn't know. I know all the New Zealand people I've ever talked to have been very, very nice people. And I've actually had people from New Zealand that have bought some chambers and all kinds of stuff from us. It's been a while because shipping is outrageous anymore. Is skullcap easy to grow? I don't know about that one. I've heard of it, but I don't know about that. Oh, I did a few years ago try to grow some St. John's wort from seed. And oh, Patrick's in here. Hello, Patrick, Mr. Rain. Anyway, it sprouted, but then they all died. All my little starts died. But I did get a volunteer from a friend. We kind of made a trade. I gave her a volunteer, a couple of volunteer valerian starts, and what was the other one? The currant. And then she gave me a St. John's wort. It actually looks pretty good. So hopefully I can get that to survive. I just got it in a pot on the deck until I decide where exactly I want to grow it. I know I've got some places in my West Herb garden I'd like to grow some other stuff, but my elderberry gets so big it shades everything out and then doesn't do too well. So that's another reason we're like, maybe we'll grow the black elderberry somewhere else, like at the other property or something. I mean, it looks pretty when it's all big and filled in. And it's huge. It gets practically taller than the house, but it gets taller than the rain catcher thingies, gutters. my brain again. I have dwarf St. John's wort here. I put it in the greenhouse and harvested some. Does it seem that it does, even in Florida, you keep it in the greenhouse? I was thinking it kind of like, what I was reading is that though it prefers full sun, it will do okay in partial sun. So that's where I'm debating where to put it. I think it likes a damp but well drained soil, if I remember correctly. But then again, I was reading about a couple other things. Yeah, it's too close to the house. I know, Patrick. I already told everybody that you're threatening to rip out my elderberry, but I'm kind of getting to the point where when I see what's happening to the rest of my plants under there, I'm thinking that might be best to take it out. And we can get some, there's a lot of young shoots coming up. We can always take those and plant those down at the other piece of property and let it just kind of grow wild out there where it's got lots of space. And then I can get my flowers and my berries from that. But like Tyler said, sometimes you're just kind of money ahead to just go ahead and buy a pound of black organic elderberries for your needs. And the one thing I don't like about elderberry is that unlike a lot of other plants, you can't really do anything with the leaves. As far as I know, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm missing something, but it's the berries and the flowers that you use. And whereas with your other berry plants, like currants and blackberries and blueberries and raspberries and strawberries, you can use the leaves. You can dry them up. You can use them for teas. You can use them as a vegetable. You can use them however you want because they're good for you. They're full of minerals and they're not toxic, unlike the elderberry leaves. Just be careful to treat your elders with respect. Yeah, Mr. Rain. And your wife too, while you're at it. Okay, so I think that was all of I was going to say about where to find seeds or where to find herbs, especially if you can't grow them, but even if you can and you want to plant some. Yeah, I use comfrey. I don't use the elderberry leaves, really? Yeah. Well, I have so much comfrey. I use comfrey mixed with arnica flower for that kind of thing because arnica is really good. So my arnica is just blowing up. Okay, so here's my little thing. So here is my warning. It's not the word I'm looking for. My disclaimer. For anyone who doesn't believe the Bible, doesn't believe in God, I'm just going to let you know I got something I'm going to share. It's kind of a little testimony. Uh you can come back later if you want. It shouldn't take too long unless I ramble too much. Arnica Skywalker. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my thoughts on what happened with the arnica seed and the lovage seed. So this is probably going to sound a little crazy to some people, but I've just been very stumped on how I ended up with the arnica seed and the lovage seed all stored in the same way I store all the other seeds. I told you I planted some yarrow seed. It's all coming up yarrow. But the arnica and the lovage seed all came up something entirely different. Both exactly the same thing, but entirely different than arnica and lovage. It shouldn't look like what that looked like. I was telling everybody it looks a lot like either mojito mint or lemon balm, but doesn't smell or taste like either one of them. So, and this was, of course, I found this out after I sold several packs of each. And I'm like, great. So I feel really bad, but I will make it right with people who purchased that because it was my mistake. I had no idea. So I've just been racking my brain going, I have no idea what this is, and I have no idea how this could have happened. Then it kind of struck me the other day. And if you guys know that I decided in 2024, you guys should know, anyone who's in here right now, unless you're listening later and you've never watched any of my stuff, that for 2024, I decided to follow the biblical guideline for giving the gardens, giving the land a rest. Some of it was because I felt like it really needed it anyway, but I was really feeling like the Lord was impressing on me, you need to do this. And so I was coming up with all these ideas. It's like, well, okay, well, maybe I can just rest the old areas, the areas I've been gardening for 10 plus years. But the newer areas that I've only had going for a few years, maybe not rest those. I can still grow stuff in those. But I just kept feeling very strongly I needed to just let it all rest. Besides, I don't want to be confused. If I'm going to give my land a rest every 7 years or, after every 6 years, I don't want to be confused as to, okay, what part can I grow in this year? I want it all in the same all in the same calendar. I mean, all following the same thing. Well, along with that, what this means is, though you can eat from the things that come back up of themselves, any of your perennials, you can eat from those. You can share that. You can let the wildlife have it. You can have the poor have it. As long as it's coming in, you can keep eating from that. Again, I'm just talking about following the biblical guideline. And some of it was just, a lot of it was a big, massive step of faith. And some of it was also just, I want to see what happens. I just want to see. I know that my land could really use a rest. So, but I kind of cheated with two things. Guess what those two things were? It was the arnica and the lovage. I decided because I wasn't positive what all, of the lovage and the arnica, I really wanted to make sure I had some seed just in case for those two. So I only saved what I thought was a little bit of seed off of each of those plants, just those two. That's the only thing I saved anything from. And guess what? Those were the two seeds that ended up being tainted with something else. What? I have no idea. Now, I will say mojito mint does grow next to my arnica, very close to it. But there's no way the mojito mint seeds would have gotten in there. And the mojito mint and the lemon balm seeds do not grow, or the lemon balm, neither one of them grow next to my lovage. So I don't know. Other than here's my thought, and I was sharing this with our fellowship yesterday, is that I don't think it was a punishment. I don't think that's always how God works, but I know that what God wanted me to do, he wanted me to take a step of faith. And by me collecting the seeds off those 2 plants, I wasn't taking a step of faith on those. I wasn't trusting him with that. And I should have. And so whatever happened there, I don't know, but I didn't that was the one area I didn't trust him with when it came to my garden. And it was kind of like the manna. What happened when people collected more manna than they needed? It got wormy and nasty by the next day. If they collected more than they needed, because they didn't trust that the manna was going to be there the next day. Interesting, huh? But guess what? The arnica and the lovage in my garden are blowing up. I didn't need the seeds anyway. So if I had just been trusted him with all of that, like he had asked me to do, I wouldn't have, there was no need. There was no need for me to collect seeds. Now, I will collect seed this next year, but that's not for my own sake. That's so that not only can I replace the seeds for the sake of the people that bought seed from me and ended up with something that was not arnica and not lovage, but also so I can have more to sell to others. And I will definitely make sure they're the right seeds. Terry asks if there are herbal answers to lowering cholesterol. Yes. I do actually have a video, and it's on my main channel. If you just look up cholesterol, or even, cholesterol on my main channel, or Rain Country Cholesterol, you should find that where I put together a list. Because I could rattle off a couple things, like oats are really good for helping with that. But the thing is, I did compile a list together like I do, and put it in written form as well, so that you can have it right there at your fingertips and make it easy, because I'm not going to remember it all off the top of my head. That's the problem. The more I do those videos, the more I'm like, wait a minute. Because I was thinking that it was the barley that was good for diabetes. But then when I went and looked at my list, I'm like, oh, I don't have barley in there. Maybe it was the barley that's good for cholesterol. So yeah, I don't remember. And look, Deb gathered the link too. Thank you, Deb. Natural help for high cholesterol. So, because I do have one on hypertension or high blood pressure. What did you do with your time if you didn't garden? My time ended up getting filled up with plenty enough other stuff, especially with the death in the family and watching grandbabies. It was actually a blessing to not have to worry about my garden last year. It was actually timely in that way, because we didn't know we were going to have a death in the family. So, and we're coming, it's as of yesterday, it's been a year. Yesterday was the 1 year of Patrick's father passing away. So, yeah. But I'm really glad I didn't have to worry about the garden during that time. And I could just put my focus on other things too. My channel, which is a full-time job, my grandbabies, and getting some sewing projects done and whatever. And even planning my garden for 2025. My back hurts just reading that. Oh, just replace a 900-pound excavator track by myself and hydraulic friend. I'm actually surprised at how quickly he got it done. I didn't see any of it. My guess is he might have shot some video of it. I don't know. Did you shoot any video of it, Mr. Rain? Because that would probably make some good video fodder right there for those interested. For any of you that are going to run out and replace a track on your excavator, because I know y'all got to do that, don't you? I love my hydraulic friend. Yes, you do, Mr. Rain. I feel like I'm in competition. Uh, Friday, a friend came over and we cut a tree from over my house piece by piece. Fun. I did. He did shoot some video fodder. So maybe in about a year, I'll have I'll be able to get. No, it'll be sooner than that. In fact, I'll probably work on that one next. I have one I've been working on about a winch that he repaired that I keep meaning to get back to, but it's one of those that's far more time consuming. I'd probably have a lot more fun doing the one on the replacing the track. Just got to change the oil in my tractor today. Fun. But you know what? That's part of having stuff and things. We can get blessed by this stuff and it can make our lives easier in some ways. But then again, there's maintenance. There's always maintenance, right? Always. No one said it was easy trying to be a little more self-sufficient. It's definitely not easy. It'd be easier just to have a lot of money and you can just buy everything you need. It's still, you still got investments, right? You got investment into infrastructure, investment into the property, investment into the heavy equipment, and it's all an investment. Painting the inside of my house. Ugh, Karen. That's one of those things that's like you really like getting it done and it just everything's so nice, but that's probably one of my most hated jobs and like I got several rooms in my house that really need some repainting. My living room, my kitchen doesn't need repainting because that got done when Patrick put in the new cabinets. Their new cabinets he built, but the ceiling still needs painting. My dining room needs painting. My hallway in my living room. I don't want to do it. You got to move everything and cover everything, and I hate that. Your whole life just gets totally turned upside down because now you got to eat your meals over here, and you got to figure out. I don't know. But it's all worth it when it's done, right? I'd rather paint than install drywall. Yeah. Yeah, you got to paint anyway, right? Remodeling the cottage. My house has got furniture everywhere. I bet. And you can't move. Yes. Anyway, let's see. I wanted to, since I got my main topic done, I'll go ahead and talk about a couple other things. Let's see. I can't read my handwriting again, people. It's terrible. I did want to cover somebody actually asked a question. What is chop and drop? I'm sure most of you in here already know that, but I figure I'll cover it. And it's my preferred method. Now, some people might take comfrey and nettle and then make a tea. You probably heard of making like a garden tea out of that, and maybe even throwing in some chicken manure in there. And it's just really pleasant stuff, but it's super good for the garden. So basically you take a big bucket, you throw all this stuff in there, you top it off with water and you let it ferment for a few days. And now you got a great fertilizer to pour on your plants. I just don't have the desire to do that. And kudos to those who do. I know my neighbor back here, he used to do it quite a bit. I don't know if he still does. I prefer chop and drop. It's cleaner and easier. However, there's a bad side to that too. But chop and drop is simply, you could even use your dandelion leaves. Why? Because they're full of minerals that are really good for your soil. So I've done this with borage. I do this with comfrey. I do this with nettle. And so it's exactly what it sounds like. You chop it and you drop it around, onto your garden like a mulch layer. So we planted against the back fence where we made that new garden area. We're working on that. We planted a couple new blueberry plants, a boysenberry, as some of you know if you were watching the last Sunday, and a new fig and an old fig all up against that fence. And since the soil, Patrick just tilled it up, and it's probably got a lot of good stuff in there because the firewood being stacked there before. So it's probably got a lot of rotten wood kind of breaking down in there, and that's good. But it really needs some mending, but wanted to get that stuff in the ground. So what I did is, since I have a ton of nettle, I have a ton of comfrey, is I just went and chopped down a whole bunch of my comfrey, a whole bunch of my nettle, and then just kind of piled it at the base of the plants, so that not only will it kind of have a nice mulch layer that will help hold in moisture, these will also break down and start feeding that soil. However, I did notice today a couple of because I just took the nettle, like the whole just stalks, and threw them down there. I'm like, I go out there to look at it. I'm like, those look like they might be trying to grow. So I may have to do a better job of chopping them up into smaller bits so that they don't take root and grow. I don't want the nettle along there. I got plenty of nettle, and I got plenty of comfrey. I don't need new plants. But yes, you can. So that's chop and drop. So again, I say I do that with borage, but usually with the borage, since my chickens absolutely love borage plants, if I get too many borage plants in the garden, and I'm so thrilled, ton of them coming up in the garden, then I will just pull up a whole plant if it's shading, crowding out my corn, because I'll just let it grow along with the corn and other things out there. If it's starting to crowd anything out or shade it too much, I just yank it up. It comes up super easy because it's got a short tap root. It's a wide tap root. It can be about that big around, but it's only about that long. Maybe at the longest, that long. Pulls right out of the soil. And I just throw the whole plant out into the yard, and the chickens will devour it. Every bit of it. They love it. Well, maybe not the more woody part of the stem. It's not really woody. It's a little tougher, a little stringier, but they love the leaves and the flowers. They'll just eat all of that off of there. And they love it. It's good for them. See, you can use fresh cow, horse, donkey, or chicken manure in a tea. Use only 20% tea with water when you water your garden. No burning. So thanks for the tips, Tyler. Even though I'm not interested in making the tea. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll decide, okay, maybe I'll give it a try this year. I just don't want to mess with it. So I just do chop and drop. It works good for me. It's clean. Like I said, I've done it when I get lots of dandelion too. And that's another thing about dandelion, why I don't mind letting dandelion grow amongst certain other plants, is because dandelion's one of those types of plants that it will put nutrients into the soil. So those deeper tap roots just kind of carry the nutrients down into the soil and neutralize remineralize the soil, but it's more than just minerals. And borage is good for that too. And also amaranth is another good one. So typically what I'll do is I'll take, and I might have shared this last week, is when I'm done with the potatoes, dig up all the potatoes, and then I'll go plant amaranth in there to help kind of re-nourish the soil. And it looks pretty, and then you can still harvest the amaranth seeds and the leaves, and you can use them. You can use the seeds for a grain, a gluten-free grain if you need to. I typically just sell the seeds and save them for next year and just use the leaves. I haven't tried using them as a grain yet. I might someday. I just haven't. Then I thought I wasted my time buying the spraying. Buying the sprayer? Okay, what? Oh, the paint sprayer. Yeah. Yeah. But then you got to tape everything off, and I hate that too, but it does make the painting part go faster. Hi, everybody. I'm so late. I have a lot of catching up to do on lives and videos. I missed everyone. And by the way, if I get cut off again, which thankfully I didn't, I got through my main topics. I got through everything I needed to get through. So I won't go to the second stream if I get cut off. But boy, Wednesday, that was a pain, huh? I was so irritated about that 3 times. So irritating. I did want to say something about, so people were recommending, so because I have this chicken that keeps getting over my fencing no matter what I do. She's a buff Orpington too, but she's not a heavy buff Orpington. She's one of the new ones who just doesn't seem to have a lot of weight to her. And people mentioned clipping the wings. I'm like, okay, I hadn't thought about that. But then as I was thinking, well, what if you cut their wings and they can't get up on the roost? Because I don't have like a ramp that goes up to their roost. They kind of jump and fly up there. Well, so I got to reading and looking that up. It's like, can I safely clip? I know you just do the one wing. I saw some videos on how easy it is to do. It's basically like giving a haircut. You just don't want to go too short, all that. You know, I get it. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. That'll be easy enough if I need to. But let me find out if the chicken will still be able to get up on the roost. That's important. I mean, I wouldn't mind lifting her up there at night, but what if she needs to? They also have to get up to the roost to be able to get to the nesting boxes because they're up at that same height. Well, then I found that, so as I did some reading, yeah, Deb says mine get the roost with clipped wings, that they can actually hop. And some people were saying in the, the backyard chickens, that message board thing, some were saying that they will hop as high as 4 feet. And I'm like, well, that's how tall the fence is. So what good is it going to be if I if I clip her wing? I still don't think I'd be able to keep her out of the garden. Now I can try it. Boy, what percentage of my garden is perennial versus annual? That's a good question. I don't really know. I like to have as many perennials as I can, but most of my perennials are the herbs. But I also have my fruits like strawberries, currants, grapes, apples, plums, which I might actually get some plums this year, cherries. What am I forgetting? What's another perennial that puts out food? I mean, there's all my herbs. Most of my herbs are perennial. There are a few annuals like the basil. By the way, I think I heard somebody tell me or read somewhere that there is such thing as a perennial basil. I need one if there is such thing. Calendula, it can come back the next year, but typically you got to think of it as an annual. And a couple other things, the amaranth. I don't know. I would be safe to say 50-50, but I think it's possible my perennials altogether might be more than my annuals. So I don't know. I think the more perennials you can have, the better, but there's some things, like zucchini, pumpkin, potatoes, these are all important things to me, and I'm still going to keep growing them every year. But yeah, so we got lots of berries. Oh, raspberries. I got the boysenberry now. Did I say blueberries? And then we have blackberries back here, but we got the blackberries at the other property. So yeah, probably more perennials than annuals, but like corn is an annual. Oh, by the way, so I got all my corn plants that I started in the greenhouse, my glass gem corn, put it in the ground today, other than 3 that I didn't have a space for, but I'm hanging on to them, spaced them out in the pot in the greenhouse so they don't intertwine again. And that way, if I lose a couple out in the main garden, I can just switch them out for that. Got all those in the ground today. And because it looks like I've been planting some, like plant a little bit and wait, watch them for a couple of days, plant a little bit more. Since nothing's turning purple, that tells me it's staying warm enough that it's safe to get all the corn in there, unless we suddenly have a freeze, but I don't think that's going to happen this late. Not saying it can't, but I don't think it will. Usually what I've learned just from experience, so I've never read about this, is that if your corn your calendula, your kale, certain other quite a number of your annuals. If you put them in the ground and the leaves start turning purple, like a purplish burgundy-ish color, it's too cold. So it's just a sign that it's too cold and you put them in too soon. Or maybe you put them in at the right time, but the weather got colder than it was supposed to. So I figured that out by experience. So because of that, that's why I did the corn and the sunflowers the way I did, because they'll do the same thing. Put in a few, watched them to see what they would do, because it's been cold lately, especially at night, but not cold enough that nothing has turned purple. So it's a good sign. So everything's still looking pretty healthy, except my zucchini in the front yard, because I moved that out there probably too soon. I still have 3 more zucchini in the greenhouse. I'm going to leave until the very, very last minute. And if I have to switch out, because I don't need 3 more zucchini plants if the 4 that are growing out front finally start to grow again. But it got too cold and they're not happy. They're still alive, but they don't look very good. So I may have to switch them all out with the 3 remaining ones in the greenhouse, which 3 is plenty. One plant is plenty, but I still like having 3. I like getting a lot of zucchini, because not only do I like putting up a lot, I like giving a lot of it away. Not last year, because I didn't grow any last year, but the year before, I had so much zucchini I was giving away to everyone. It's like, I don't know who else to give some away to. And I thought, oh, I know. How about like the UPS and the USPS people that are always so nice to bring my packages up to my deck? So, or pick up the packages I'm shipping out. And so I left some big zucchini out there and with a sign, and the mail carrier, she took there's one of these big massive zucchinis. She took them home, or maybe a couple of them, and made some really great zucchini bread, and left. The next time she came to deliver packages, she left a loaf of zucchini bread on my deck, and it was pretty yummy. So that was pretty cool. So I'll probably be doing a lot of that, leaving bags of apples and zucchini and whatnot. Rhubarb. I got in my dehydrators. They're full of peppermint, rhubarb, lovage, pansies, and something else I'm forgetting. Maybe that's it. I feel like there's one more thing in there that I've forgotten. But the rhubarb is just exploding this year. It's like it's the biggest I've ever seen it. More abundant than I've ever seen it. So I'll probably be giving a lot of rhubarb away. You know, Tyler, I love brick, and I know some of you have probably watched the whatever that show was called with Chip and Joanna Gaines. Why is it I can remember their names, but I can't remember the name of the show? I'm assuming they're not doing that show anymore. And it was enjoyable. I liked watching what they did, but it's like, why are they always painting all the brick white? I like the brick. I like the look of the more natural look of the brick. But they want to take all the brick and they want to paint it white. Why? I mean, a matter of taste. I get it. Some people don't like the look of brick. I do. In Florida, they paint a lot of brick houses. See, to me, I'm thinking part of the idea of having brick is that you don't have to paint it. I love the look of it. To me, it's got that nice rustic look that I just really like. But hey, if people want to paint their brick white and they like that, more power to them. If I had a brick house, then I wouldn't be throwing bricks through people's windows. No. If I had a brick house, I would not be painting it. My son that lives just down the road, the bottom part of his house is brick, and it's all the natural brick. I think it's cool, but yeah, it's like halfway up is brick, and then the rest of it is like, I don't know what kind of siding he's got on the rest of it. So yeah, And I know a lot of homes in Texas are made. That's one thing I noticed about watching their show. It's like most of the homes in Texas I noticed are made from brick. Also, the other thing I noticed is they're a lot cheaper than even here in our teeny tiny town in Washington State. I mean, for what we could sell this house for here, we could probably buy a mansion in Texas. And this is just it is 2,400 square feet, Rambler style house, but I think I said ranch style house. I meant Rambler in another video. But that's because this room right here is 1,100 square feet. And this was an add on ourselves because it's my dance studio. So the rest of the house is as big as this room. We have tiny little bedrooms, a tiny little dining room, a small living room. It's not a big house. It's just an average house. If it wasn't for this dance room, it would be very, very average. Thank you, Aqua Gardener, for your donation. Appreciate that. Build with what materials are available in the area. Texas has clay and we have timber. Right. So I was thinking that's why everything there is brick. They don't have as much timber as we have, which makes sense. We got, we have a lot of tall trees in rain country. Of course, we don't have a lot of tall hardwood trees. We just have we have a lot of cedar and a lot of spruce. What else do we have? Well, we have fir, we have alder, which is the hardwood, but it's not one, I think. If I remember correctly, alder isn't one you really want to use for building a house with. You have tall trees. We have tall tales. I bet you do, Tyler. I bet you do. Anyway, it seemed like there was one more thing. Let me see. I think I actually covered all my points. Didn't get cut off. I'm so thrilled. I even got my dishes done before I came in here and started my show. Got most of the dinner all ready to go. I just got a couple more things I got to finish out and then I can go cook it. I'm making chicken fried rice and it was kind of fun because I'm adding some dandelion greens, some lovage, the stalk and the leaves from the garden. So I got 4 things from the garden, 3 fresh from the garden. So let's see, dandelion, nettle, and lovage, and then some snow peas that I had in the freezer from 2022. I got to use up my snow peas because I got a whole bunch of snow peas growing out there. Well, they're still only like this tall, so I don't have peas on them yet, but I'm going to be getting a lot of snow peas this year. So I want to be able to get all the old, the 2022 and 2023 out of there so I can put all fresh stuff in my freezer. I prefer to freeze the snow peas. They do dehydrate up quite well, but for stir fries and fried rice, that kind of thing, I prefer to use frozen. And then I'll probably ferment a little bit. I do kind of like on occasion, having fermented snow peas with onions and garlic and red pepper, of course. What was that about never itch from mosquitoes again? What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss about the mosquito thing? Oh, because of the western red cedar. Is that what you're referring to? Cooking with the western red cedar. Okay, see, Mr. Rain is helping me out here on the on the trees. He would be the one to do that. He would know better than me, even though I've lived here since 1988. I was 22 years old and I came here in the summer of 88 to visit. And here I still am. Lord knew what he was doing, though. Wasn't my plan to come and stay. It was my plan to come and visit. Not stay. Get my water. Get the right water here. You just can't smoke it. Huh. Well, everybody's talking about trees now. And I don't know. Surely I have other topics I can cover, but I could always save that for Wednesday. Thank you. Thank you for your prayers, everyone. I didn't get cut off. I'm so glad because Wednesday I was about in tears. not not that that's a hard thing for me to end up in tears somehow. Heidi, you came for a visit and rusted in place. Pretty much. Pretty much. But it's one of those things where it's like I wouldn't have said, "Gee, I really want to move to Forks." So there had to be a way for me to end up here and then a way for me to end up having to stay here. But this is where God wanted me all along, I realized. So I'm happy here. There's times I wish I'd lived in a place, especially in the spring when the heaviest rains are here and everything's a big mud hole where I'm just about done. But then things start to dry out a little bit, and at least enough that you're not sinking up to your ankles in mud and things start growing and looking pretty and you're like, "Yeah, I like it here. I like it here. It's very green here." Mr. Rain says, "I'm at fault. Heidi is here." Yes, you are a good part of the reason why I'm here. Though I do believe it was God's leading that brought me here. And you happened to be in church that same day that I was. And you hadn't been to church in how long? Years? That was interesting. No better than to trust Google. What did I miss again? I hate it when I miss stuff and there's always something good going on. Ah, I have cooked with Eastern red cedar bean. Okay, that was the one I already read. You have to check and see if your nettle's coming up. Oh my goodness, my nettle is already of course, where we live, it's cool and wet, and nettle loves it here. So right now it is. What I didn't hack down is about 4 feet tall right now, and it will get to 8 feet because it will grow taller than our gutters, just like the elderberries do. Anyway, you know, um, Billy, you sent me those creeping cucumber seeds, and I can't remember what I ever did with them. You sent them to me years ago. Isn't that one that's it's a perennial, and they're small, and as long as you eat them before they turn black, they're fine? Is that the same one? I was gonna plant those seeds, and I don't know whatever happened to them. I wonder if I still have them somewhere. I'm gonna have to dig through my seeds again. So, because that would be interesting. Because I've decided I will no longer grow annual cucumbers the same year that I'm growing pumpkins because they cross pollinate. I mean, you can do it as long as you don't gather any more cucumbers once the pumpkin starts to flower. Because that was terrible. Once the pumpkin started to flower, then they cross pollinated, and all my cucumbers started coming in orange and bitter, and they were terrible. And you don't want to eat a bitter cucumber because it's toxic, and it tastes terrible anyway. So I decided this year I really want to grow a lot of pumpkins, so I'm just going to grow a pumpkin and then put up a bunch, and then next year I'll grow cucumbers instead of pumpkin. But I haven't had any issues. I still think it's weird because I'm pretty sure I've grown pumpkin and cucumber at the same time before, and they're in different parts of the garden. But bees will fly from the one area to the other, and that's how it happens. So anyway, see, I lived in Texas for almost 40 years, and I can tell you that most houses in Texas are not brick. Oh, that's interesting because when I was watching that show, like every house was brick. I'm like, is every house in Texas brick? Maybe it depends on the part of Texas. I mean, it is a big state. It's pretty big. And I know that there's parts of Texas, from what I understand, that aren't near as hot and dry as others. Kind of like Washington State. We're not even that big. You got two completely different climates. You would think they were on opposite sides of the world. And here they are in the same state, all because of a mountain range that makes a difference. Yeah, I thought about that, Maddie, but I probably wouldn't do that anytime soon because it's, first of all, I'm so busy that it's like trying to make time to go down there and tend to garden. It was something I'd want to do at least a few times a week. That's just, even though it's just right down the road, but then we'd also need to have a good tall fence to keep the elk out because they'll eat all the. I mean, I assume that the elk will eat the cucumbers and the pumpkin. I don't know. If nothing else, they can get in there and stomp everything all to bits. So we got elk down there, and we don't have fence. That'd just be another massive expense. We've already had to spend a lot of money on fencing, more fencing for around here, and apparently I'm wondering if it was all a waste of money since that stupid chicken keeps getting over my fencing no matter what I do. So I think I need with that chicken, because if clipping her wings isn't going to keep her from hopping 4 feet, then I'm going to have to get a 8-foot fence, and she'll probably still get over it. So I don't know. Now we have a ton of elk out here, and they love to hang out at our piece of property right down the road. That's one of their favorite places to hang out, around here. At least as far as within city limits goes. It's one of their favorite places. Anyway, I really should get going. Yeah, no, I know. That would be a pain. I maybe with her, but how would she get up in her roost into the nesting box in the middle of the day to lay her egg? No, I'd have to be keeping an eye on her all day. I don't have time for that. It's an interesting idea, but no, whoops, kicking the table again. Well, yeah, that's Susan. That's kind of what I've considered. The reason I'm not excited about the idea of turning any of my young buff Orpingtons into chicken dinner is because I don't know if I'll ever get any more purebred buff Orpingtons. So I want to get as many chicks, many hens from those before I do that. So I'm not in a hurry to take them out yet because I only have 4 right now total buff Orpington hens. One is 8 years old. She's great chicken, lays every day. And then the 3 young ones I got last year, one of them being that one that keeps wanting to hop the fence. But out of those 3, she's also the healthiest. So I'm like, I'm really disappointed in the buff Orpingtons I bought last year. They're just not. Well, yeah, that one is the healthiest, but she's the one that keeps hopping the fence. And the other 2 are just back and forth. And one seemed, I don't know. And like I say, they're just not as beefy as my original buff Orpington. So I'm not really impressed. But maybe I should just be trying to get as many hens out of Claire as I can as long as she's still laying. So hopefully we'll see what happens out of this hatching I got coming up. Or, they're hatched, but once they get old enough where we can figure out how many of them are hens. Soup wasn't mentioned. Well, usually, Patrick, you know how it works. It's like the chicken I roasted the other night. Well, it was a whole chicken with the potatoes, and I did a side of vegetables, which was stinging nettle, onions, mushrooms, garlic. Then tonight I'm making chicken fried rice using some of the meat off of that, and I'll probably use more meat to make some other dinner, and then I'll take the bones and make a chicken soup. That's how it works. We We have a chicken plucker. That was a good investment. It wasn't cheap, but it was a good investment. So, yeah, we do that. If it wasn't for that, we'd probably just skin them. We can them. Can you do that? Can. Drill attachments. They actually make a drill attachment that you can buy. I've seen people make their own. No, this is just one of those big barrel kind. You just throw the chickens in there. It worked. It's just like a couple minutes. What is it? Not even a couple minutes. Just spin around in there, and the feathers just you got you're hosing the thing down while you're doing it, and the feathers just come right off. Of course, after you blanch them first. You got to blanch them. And it's only what, Patrick, how long do you hold the chicken down in the hot water? It's just a few seconds, isn't it? Like maybe 30 seconds. And then you throw them in that barrel thing, the chicken plucker, and the feathers come off. You'll end up with a few feathers that you got to pluck off, but there's not much to it. It was worth the investment, especially when we took it out to our friends, because that was one of the catalysts that got us to go ahead and buy it then, was because they were going to be butchering a whole bunch of chickens, and they asked if we'd come help. And we are thinking that's a great deal because we can learn how to do it. And hey, let's get a chicken plucker while we're at it. They loved that. So there was a lot of chickens going through that thing. So it was worth it. My husband won $50 meat raffle at work. That was a nice blessing. So we are going to be grilling today. Yay, Tammy. Congratulations. How nice. Okay. For real, people, why do you keep me on here? Why do you keep doing this to me? It's all your fault. Anyway, I love you guys. I enjoy talking to you guys. So I do have to get back to work. And hey, you know what? Another blessing, my vocal cords. They're totally cool all day today. All through the whole thing. I didn't have to cough or itch or spray my throat. That's amazing. I don't know when the last time was that happened. Anyway, it just dawned on me. That is so cool. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming in. Love you. Hope you have a great rest of your day, a great week, and take care and God bless. Love ya. Bye.